All right, we back one day ahead of the start of the 2020-2021 NBA season. I don't even really think I should have to say 2020 season because it's basically the 2021 season with how late we're starting. But we're going to kind of go through we're going to go kind of team by team in divisions and kind of talk about how we think these teams are going to do this year. Obviously, tomorrow is the start of preseason. Go watch the best game of the night, Pistons Knicks. Who cares about Clippers Lakers? That's a boring game. Come watch Knicks Pistons. Come watch us cry. But we are gonna start actually with the Atlantic Conference. So let's go from bottom to top. Let's start with the New York Knicks. All right, so. As far as the New York Knicks go, I don't really know too much about them. So honestly, we're going to start with never mind. We're going to start with the Raptors. As far as the Raptors go, obviously they're bringing back Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet, so that'll be probably their starting point guard, shooting guard. I believe they're probably going to roll out
there.
They're probably going to roll out AG Anunoby, I think, is the small forward, if I'm not mistaken. Then Pascal at the 4. Probably. Pascal at the 4, and then who did they get for the 5? Wait, who did they get for the 5? They signed someone, right? Well, that's a downgrade.
Which is scary. Their starter before was Marc Gasol.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the roster, the only two centers they have are Alex Len and Aaron Baines.
And Henry Ellenson.
So unless they plan on playing small ball, it's going to be one of those two.
Henry Ellenson, too.
Henry Ellenson does not count.
Yeah, but I would assume they roll out OG.
I'm a Piston fan. Henry Ellenson does not count or exist.
I would assume that's the starting 5 they roll out. In such a stacked such a stacked division, what are the keys to this team winning their division if they have their chance?
Well, the big thing for the Raptors is definitely going to be the excess of Kyle Lowry and also Pascal Siakam, which I cannot find. There he is.
They're rolling out.
Siakam and Kyle Lowry, both of those two are going to be big pieces for this team. Also, Fred VanVleet. All those guys, that's basically the big three for the Raptors. They live and die by those three players. Outside of that, they have some decent pieces. Chris Boucher's not too bad. Bembry's all right. They have some all right guys. Norman Powell's okay. Patrick McCaw's not awful. Of course, OJ Anunoby, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but OJ Anunoby, I think is how you say it. Anyways, those guys are going to be really big for the Raptors. Specifically, I think it's going to be dependent on the big three, but they're really going to need those guys to step it up, and if those guys can do it, Raptors are a legitimate contender to me.
Mm-hmm. The biggest thing for the Raptors is how that undersized backcourt continues to play, as well as Pascal Siakam in the playoffs. Because this year he was not very good in the playoffs, though to be fair, it was the bubble, a different scenario, different situation than most people are used to, but he does not seem like a full leader of that team. So Lowry has to keep stepping up as the vocal leader of that team to have them. Because they're in a talented division. I mean, the Celtics, the Sixers, and the Nets are all going to be really good next season. So if the Raptors want to repeat as Atlantic champions, the biggest thing to me is Pascal Siakam. He needs to show that he can be consistently good, consistently playing at an all-star level, whether it's Game 1 or Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. He's got to be doing it. He's got to be their guy that's taking most of the scoring load. And Lowry's just got to be a good playmaker as usual. So moving on now to the Boston Celtics. Obviously, probably one of the favorites to win this division between them and the Nets. Obviously, they're going to be running believe Jason Tatum's obviously Kemba Walker. They'll have at the 1. Jaylen Brown's a shooting guard, I believe, right? If I'm not mistaken. Jaylen Brown's a guard. Yeah. So Brown will be running. I was about to say Brown will be running the 2. Brown will be. I think Jaylen Brown will be running the 2. Smart's a good defensive presence off the bench. Obviously you'll have Tatum. Probably, honestly, I don't know. They might run Tatum at either the 3 or the 4, and then pick and choose between. Because I mean, as far as their centers go, they got Tristan Thompson, Robert Williams. What's his face? Daniel Tice. They could run either of those at the power forward position, or Grant Williams. They have a couple people that they can throw into that forward position, but I know obviously Tatum's either going to be playing the 3 or the 4. Looking at it, they don't have a traditional 4, so I'd assume he's going to be running the 3. But this team looks good. Obviously Tatum, huge leap from year 2 to year 3. Jaylen Brown made that leap from year 2 to year 3, being a borderline all-star. Kemba kind of went down a little bit from his scoring, from his output again when he was on the Hornets, but at the same time, he was also on the Hornets. Somebody had to make the baskets at some point on the Hornets. Obviously, the biggest thing is the key departure of Gordon Hayward. That is going to hurt him. Gordon Hayward was a really good role player at the 4. He knew what his role was, and he played it. And he played it to perfection. But how do you think this team can get over the hump of the Eastern Conference Finals and make it to the finals?
Well, for Boston, they have so many pieces and parts. It's hard to believe that they haven't gotten to the finals yet. They have so many guys that can play. Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown. I mean, Carson Edwards was great in college. I don't know if he'll translate that into the NBA, but I mean, he's been okay. They just got Aaron Nesmith. He looks pretty good. Payton Pritchard was just a point guard stud out of Oregon. I'd like to see how he plays in the NBA. Jeff Teague, Tristan Thompson, Kemba Walker. There's so many people that they can put in there, and definitely all of them can contribute. It's a matter of them all contributing, though. For Boston, every single year we've seen some players, they've just been underperforming. They have not been playing as well as they really could. And especially for some of these guys, they've really struggled to get to that top level. And I'm telling you, if Boston can play at the capacity that they can, with all those stars that they have on their team, like Kemba and Jason Tatum, and I mean, I consider Jaylen Brown an outstanding player. Marcus Smart's really sneaking good too. If they can get all those guys to be playing at a high level at the same time, they're going to be very difficult to shut down. No. Defensively or offensively, they're going to be a very talented team.
They go to the finals if they start Taco Fall for 48 minutes a game. Also, if you couldn't tell, he pays attention to college basketball a lot more than I do. So these smaller new draftees, he knows where they all played. I don't. So, all right. Going on to, honestly, probably one of the most improved teams in the offseason in the Philadelphia 76ers. This team, I am actually excited for. I mean, obviously, you've got some shooters now. With the addition of Seth Curry. You've got a couple, obviously, Matisse Thybulle, really good eventual 3-and-D player. Derek Walton Jr. You've got Dwight Howard now to come off the bench to back up Joel Embiid, so he's not playing all those minutes. Danny Green's always a good player. And then, of course, obviously, you got your stars. I'm curious if they're going to try to start maybe like a Ben Simmons at the 3. I know he's listed as a point guard, but I know he's better at getting inside, and he's a good playmaker, but I don't know. It's hard to have a point guard that can't shoot, you know? He's a great playmaker, but it's so hard to have a point guard in this day and age that can't shoot. Unless he comes out and becomes the best 3-point shooter in the league, which would be absolutely hysterical. I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe be a little experimental, kind of throw him in at the 3 or the 2, probably the 3, and throw Shake Milton out there at the 1. Obviously, Curry and Green will probably be the rotation of the 2s, and then obviously you've got Joel Embiid at the 5 and Tobias Harris at the 4. But now they got rid of Al Horford. Wait, no, they didn't get rid of Al Horford. What am I talking about?
Did they
get rid of Al Horford? They did get rid of Al Horford. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. They did get rid of Al Horford. Okay. But this team, honestly, with the addition of spot-up shooters, getting rid of a bad contract, this is really their year. They're going to kind of see, hey, if this still isn't working out, if this doesn't work out, either Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons is going to be traded. More likely than not, probably Joel Embiid, because Ben Simmons is younger. But I'm excited to see what they do this season, and I think, honestly, they could make a run in the playoffs this season.
Well, the 76ers, like you said, they got a lot better. They have Embiid, Danny Green. Really, I think the big thing for the 76ers, last season, Ben Simmons got hurt. He was basically out for the entire playoffs, which really hurt the Sixers. But they have Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid playing at the same time, playing very well. I think the big thing for the Sixers will be the performing of Tobias Harris. He was a major league disappointment last season. Absolutely awful. He did not look like the same player that he was when he looked like an all-star.
At least where he's getting paid.
So I think for the Sixers, if they want to be able to compete, they want to be able to play with those big teams, Tobias Harris really has to step it up. He's got to play like that all-star he was before. Now take the next one. I need to go get a charger for my iPad.
Yeah, he's got to play what he's worth. He hasn't played what he's worth. They gave him a max contract. He's got to pay. He's got to play like that. Next one we're going to is the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously this one is a lot of people's favorites because obviously the 2 starters, the point guard Kyrie Irving, and obviously the small forward and Kevin Durant. But this team has good pieces outside of those. Spencer Dinwiddie is a pretty good guy. Joe Harris is a pretty good guard. Jarrett Allen and DeAndre Jordan are some pretty good backup centers that could run some time on the floor. Karis LeVert, always a good shooter. Taurean Prince is decent. Shamet is a good guy because he's just another guy who you can get the ball to and pop up some threes. But this team is going to be good. If this team can get it clicking, and if Kyrie specifically, Kyrie is the biggest thing that worries me. Kyrie is great as a player, but he is not a team chemistry guy. He is very poor when it comes to team chemistry. We saw that in Boston. We saw that when he feuded with LeBron James near the end. He's just not a cool dude to his teammates, so he's got to be able to learn to become a facilitator. He can score too, since there's only really Kevin Durant and the others, but he's really got to be a facilitator and a team chemistry guy. If he is not a facilitator, I don't see the Brooklyn Nets doing as much more than getting a middle road seed. But it's all going to be... It's going to be the biggest thing is dependent on Kyrie Irving because he's not a team chemistry guy.
Yeah. Sorry, I need to go grab a charger. My iPad was almost dead. But for the Brooklyn Nets, I'm very high on Brooklyn this season. I really like Kyrie Irving. He's an outstanding player, but like I was hearing you say a little bit when I came back down, Irving definitely is a hothead. He does say a lot of questionable things. Like you said, he's not really exactly a team player. He just wants to win a championship.
Don't worry, he won't be saying anything this year. He won't be saying anything.
I'm really curious to see what Brooklyn does this season. Obviously, the big 2 for the Nets are Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. Both those 2, obviously, outstanding players. Really can play out of their minds. Also, still got Jarrett Allen. They traded for Bruce Brown and didn't really have to give anything away for him. But anyways, still got Joe Harris. DeAndre Jordan's still a fine player. He's a little old, but he still can. He's still not terrible. Karis LeVert's an outstanding point shooting guard. He's been playing very well lately. Jeff Green. They have a lot of talent on this team, so I think for Brooklyn, these guys are in a great position to break out and have an outstanding season. If I were to pick the divisions, I'd probably put Brooklyn as a slate number 1 over Boston.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I would say that if Kyrie can, like I said, be a facilitator and let the other guys score as well. Now the Knicks. Now, Knicks fans, I'm sorry, I don't really pay attention to your team, so I don't know who your starting 5 is going to be. I know who you're probably starting 3. I know you'll probably be starting R.J. Barrett at the 3, Julius Randle, who's just become a meme at this point, at the 4, and then Mitchell Robinson at the 5. Maybe like an Elfrid Payton, Frank Ntilikina at the 1, Dennis Smith Jr. at the 2. Well, I don't know.
Honestly,
Look, I don't know.
The entire New York Knicks team, anyone can start. They have R.J. Barrett, they have Reggie Bullock, they have Ty Gibson, Kevin Knox, Nerlens Noel, Frank Ntilikina.
Obviously, the key draft edition of Obi Toppin.
Obi Toppin now, so he could possibly be in the lineup. Mitchell Robinson,
Nerlens Noel. That's a good pickup.
Dennis Smith. The entire team, really, for the Knicks. I'm looking, yeah. Except for Ty Gibson, the entire Knicks team is either 29 or younger. This is a very, very young squad for the Knicks with a lot of talent. So they might not be that special this season, but the more these guys start to play in the NBA and they keep getting better, they're going to be an absolute lethal team, lethal force. I would watch out for the Knicks in a couple of years.
100%. Yeah, and even Nerlens Noel is a really good pickup as the backup center. But moving on, we're going to go to the Western Conference now. We're going to go to, I believe it's the Northwest Division is what it's called. We're going to go to, starting with the Denver Nuggets, who just come off a Western Conference Finals appearance. Obviously, Jamal Murray starting at the 1. I would assume Gary Harris is probably going to be starting at the 2. At the 3, I would assume they're going to be starting Michael Porter Jr. And then at the 4, I would assume, well, especially now that Jeremy Grant is gone, I would assume number 4 at the 4 is going to be Paul Millsap, and obviously at the 5 is going to be Jokic. Obviously the Jeremy Grant loss kind of hurts because he was a substantial bench player. But they still got good pieces. Like, they got Will Barton and PJ Dozier. Decent pieces off the bench. Obviously, everybody loves us some Bol. Hopefully to eventually get playing time. But this team looks good. I don't know if they're good enough to make it to the conference finals again. That would have to take again. I mean, they got to the conference finals, not to take anything away from them. They did get to the conference finals amidst a Clippers implosion. But Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray specifically, played his minds out. He played his mind out in the playoffs. So I'm excited to see this team, but I think they're definitely a high seed in the playoffs.
Yeah, I really like the Denver Nuggets. I honestly was kind of mad when they made a 3-0 comeback against the Clippers because I personally love Kawhi Leonard. I was just so mad. I'm like, God, why you guys? What happened what happened?
Oh, by the way, they signed Paul George to a max extension. I don't know if you saw that. Clippers signed Paul George to a max extension. See, I love Kawhi Leonard too, but at the same time, those Clippers were talking a lot of. I mean, besides those Clippers were talking a lot of trash, and Jamal Murray's my guy, so I was hyped. But continue.
Anyways, for the Denver Nuggets, I think the starting 5 is pretty simplistic. Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Michael Porter Jr., Paul Millsap, and Nikola Jokic. I don't think there's really much question about who's in the starting 5 for Denver. As for the bench, I mean, they do have Monte Morris. He's a decent contributor. Will Barton is going to be their biggest contributor, I think, off the bench. Watch out for R.J. Hampton. Just drafted him. I'm a big R.J. Hampton guy. I think he's got a lot of talent. And then they also drafted Marcus Howard, who was a point guard who played pretty well for Marquette. Actually, I liked him. I watched him play. He looks pretty good. He was a late draft pick. I don't know if it'll translate to the NBA, but something to watch maybe. But and also Bol, of course. Everyone loves Bol.
Everyone loves Bol.
Really excited to see how Bol plays as a backup. Hopefully he gets some playing time. I really hope so. I'd love to see Bol start playing.
Bol is the best.
We just get to say Bol all the time.
Bol with the Bol score. Bol gets the bowl.
Bol gets the bowl. There we go.
Yeah. All right.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Moving on to the Thunder. Last year they're like, you know what? We're gonna scrap it. We're gonna tank. We're gonna suck, and we're gonna get good draft picks. And then accidentally Chris Paul is like, nah, man, I can't do that. And the team was good. And then they flipped Chris Paul for like a bunch more draft picks. And then flipped a bunch of other people for a bunch more. Sam Presti's sitting on like the upwards of like 16 first round picks in the next 4 years, which is absurd. But this team, I think, they're like, okay, we're going to avoid the mistake of last year. We have some good young pieces, but I think we're going to make sure we're not going to be doing too good. I mean, Lou Dort's a good defensive player. Obviously, Shea is a star guard. George Hill and Al Horford are good. I think Al Horford's going to be a lot better now that he's back at his center position. A lot of people thought he was washed up. I don't think he is. He still scored pretty well at the power forward position. He's not a power forward. Darius Baisley is a big one, even though I despise Darius Baisley because he committed to Syracuse and then decommitted to go straight to the G League. And then, obviously, yeah, like I said, George Hill. They just got a bunch of good, decent pieces off the bench. Andre Roberson is back. So I'm excited to see this team develop. But this year is definitely a rebuild year. I think they're going to be one of the lower teams this season. Especially with how much talent there is in the rest of the Western Conference.
Yeah, the Thunder, like last season, they had Chris Paul, and Chris Paul was expected to have not an unspecial season. And instead, he just went bananas and put the Thunder right into the playoffs. And they're like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. Okay. But like you said, they flipped Chris Paul into like another a billion more picks. And the Thunder, they have a very, very big future with a bunch of draft picks now. I mean, the Pelicans have 2 teams' futures. The Thunder does have a crap ton of draft picks. So
just in general,
both those teams, I think, will be ones to watch out for many, many years to come. Especially, like I said, Pelicans. They got the futures of both the Bucks and the Lakers. After when one traded for Anthony Davis, and the other, oh my gosh, Drew Holiday, right? I forgot who they even traded for. Yeah, but Bucks trading for Drew Holiday, Lakers for Anthony Davis, 2 entire futures there. And then for the Thunder, he does have a ton of draft picks. So I'm excited to see the Thunder for the next few years. This year, I think, will for sure be their rebuilding season. But I think Thunder, they're looking to just finally tear it down. They want to just get some new young talent on the squad. And I think this is finally the year where they're going to do that.
Ugh. Mike Conley went to Ohio State?
You didn't know that?
No. Ugh. Okay, speaking of Mike Conley, we're going to the Utah Jazz. As far as the starting 5 there, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Mike Conley. Obviously, starting at the 2 is going to be Minyi Oni, and Donovan Mitchell will be the 3rd man off the bench. He will not be getting any minutes and will be sent down to the gym. I'm just kidding. Donovan Mitchell will be the starting shooting guard. And then you've got probably people like Joe Ingles, Bojan Bogdanovic off the bench. And then obviously starting at the 5 will be Rudy Gobert. So, I mean, looking at this squad, obviously they played pretty well last year. Donovan Mitchell balled the heck out in the first round, but just barely got outballed in the last 3 games by Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. So, what does this team have to do to make a deeper run this season? Just not run into Jamal Murray?
Well, for the Utah Jazz, it can't just be a Donovan Mitchell show. It's got to be a Utah Jazz show. Donovan Mitchell is a great player, and he can definitely do so much for you, but there's only so much the man can do. He can't do everything. Someone else has to be able to contribute. We thought Mike Conley might be that guy.
He was
outstanding defender and has some nice offensive capability. But you still saw Donovan Mitchell having to score like 50, 60 points to get the Jazz to wins, or just maybe even keep it close. I think that the big problem for Utah is they don't have any offense. This is a defensive team. They're not really much of a shooting team. I mean, you look at the team. Rudy Gobert is obviously a defensive player.
Jordan Clarkson looked good.
Defensive player.
Jordan Clarkson looked good off the bench. Jordan Clarkson had a couple good offensive games off the bench. The biggest thing that hurt them this 2020 playoffs was missing Joe Ingles. No, not Joe Ingles. Why do I keep thinking Joe Ingles? It's because Joe Ingles is amazing. No, the missing of Bogdanovich. That absolutely sunk. Because that's a lot of their offense right there. Bogdanovich is a huge offensive player. So that was hurting. That hurt them.
Yeah, like I said, for the Jazz, it's just a matter of hitting shots and not having Donovan Mitchell have to carry you with 50, 60 points every game to maybe pull off a win. Someone else has to be able to contribute. Mike Conley did that a decent amount last season, which got them to the seed that they were at. But maybe somebody else. It needs to be more of a collective effort rather than a two-man or maybe even one-man show sometimes.
100%. But this team is definitely going to be good. A little bit balanced. Solid for sure, balanced with Bogdanovich coming back. That'll be the big thing. The offense and defense will be a little bit more balanced. Now we come to the Portland Trailblazers. Obviously, we know the start. We pretty much know the starting five. Obviously, we know the starting 1 and 2 guards are going to be Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. Starting at the 3, I would assume they're going to start Rocco over Melo. I mean, one of the best 3-and-D players in the league. I would start Rocco over there. And then I would assume if he's healthy at the 4, they're going to start Zach Collins. And at the 5, they're obviously going to start Yusuf Nurkic. But the biggest thing about this team is it has depth. I mean, it has some depth. I mean, Rodney Hood is a decent guard. Gary Trent Jr. actually is learning a lot, and I think he has a potential to become another 3-and-D kind of player. Melo off the bench is good. Little off the bench is good. Simons and Swanigan are getting a bit better as they go forward. So honestly, I'm excited to see how this team does and see if they stay healthy, what the ceiling of this Trailblazers team is.
Very high, I can tell you that. I'm very high in the Trailblazers this season. I think this could be I think this is a dark horse title pick. These guys,
if they stay healthy.
Yes,
that's the biggest thing.
If they don't stay healthy, they'll be in trouble. But if they stay healthy, this is a dark horse championship finals pick for sure. I really like this Trailblazer team. You look up and down the roster, it's loaded with talent. Zach Collins, outstanding player. He was hurt last season. The Trailblazers sorely missed him. Carmelo Anthony obviously knows a crap ton. A fantastic player. Even at 36, still can play. He's not a bad player. He still can do it all. Rodney Hood, outstanding player. He's got a pretty good shot. Maybe not the best defensively, but he can really shoot the basketball. Derek Jones, just a pure athlete, can really dunk it. Needs a little bit more of some polishing shooting, but still a fantastic forward. And his Canner is very good. Obviously, Damian Dollar is really good. CJ McCollum's very good. Yusuf Nurkic, really good. You can't really go wrong with anyone on this Trailblazer team. There really is no going wrong. That's why they made a run at the end of the season. Because many people saw their record and they're going, Trailblazers are not this bad. They're much better than this.
That's why a lot of people thought
all the way back. And they got that play-in game against the Grizzlies, which they took, and they got to the 8th seed, and then injuries plagued them again.
And it's the Lakers. Damn, it's the Lakers. Lakers are good.
But if the Trailblazers stay healthy, this is a dangerous, dangerous team. Very dangerous.
Very much so. And on to the team you have very aptly nicknamed the Timber Puppies. Because they're a very young team. Obviously, starting at the 1 and 2, we're going to have D'Angelo Russell. And honestly, I don't know who they're going to start at the 2. I would think they're probably going to at least start Edwards in a couple games. Considering he's the number 1 pick, and depending on how good he does in camp, he might win that number 2 spot. After that, I have no clue who the 3 and the 4 are going to be. I just know the 5 is Cat. I'm not going to be honest, I really don't know that much about the Timberwolves. I haven't seen them play around too much.
These guys get a lot of young pieces. Malik Beasley's really good. I love Jarrett Culver personally. I think he just hasn't really translated exactly how people had hoped, but he is much better than the way he has been playing lately. But he's looked a little bit better, so I think that's a plus. Jarrett Culver though is going to be big to the Timberwolves' success, along with Anthony Edwards. I love Anthony Edwards too. I think he's really, really good. Another player I'm really excited to see them have is Jaden McDaniels. This guy is an outstanding small forward. Many people are not high on Jaden McDaniels because, well, dude is a gigantic twig. He's like 6'10", 6'11", but he weighs like the same weight as me, which is about 180. So he looks like a stinking twig out there. It looks like this stick walking around, but he is a really, really good player. I really like Jaden McDaniels. I think he could be a huge contributor, especially for a young Timberwolves team. Of course, also have D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns. Both those are going to be huge reasons to big pieces to the Timber Puppies' success. And then they still have Evan Turner. They have nice players. It just has to translate. If they can get it to translate, if they can get them all to play very well, playing at a high level, this is a good team. I don't think it would be anywhere near the playoffs. Oh, not the playoffs. I mean, not anywhere near the finals. They could be a playoff team for sure, but I don't know if they'll get much farther than that.
Timber Puppies are the NBA champions. That franchise still ain't won
I'm
nothing.
always gonna call them the Timber Puppies.
That franchise still ain't won nothing. They don't even have a finals appearance, I don't think. They almost played. No, I don't think so. They almost played us in 2004, but then they lost to the Lakers, and then we swatted them Lakers. Probably not the bottom of the division because you have the Thunder in this division, but it's gonna be fun. So tomorrow is the start of the NBA season, preseason. But we're actually going to get to see some real basketball games for the NBA. So thank you all so much for watching. Obviously, next NBA video, we'll go through the middle divisions, which are the ones that we have the most stakes in, considering he's a Pistons fan, and I am a Pistons and Suns fan. So that'll be fun. But I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and